Hi, everyone. This is Bridget with BridgetWillard.com. I'm a freelance marketer. You might know me from WP Blab, a show on the WP Water Cooler Network. And you might know me from Community Connections. You might know me from construction. That means we've known each other for a long, long time. You might know me from franchising. Franchising, WordPress, construction, those are the things I know and do very well. And I wanted to take a chance to talk about branding a little bit. Branding is like an elusive term, kind of like something everybody thinks they understand, but when it comes down to it, not everybody does. So I thought, let's do a little quick video to go along with the blog post I'll be publishing today about branding and how I feel about it, how I think about it, and what it means to me. Now, I do not have a master's in business, so I'm really excited for all of you guys that do. I did not study it specifically in that way, but I do know myself as a consumer. I understand the things that matter to me. I understand how I respond to a brand. I understand how I respond to ads. And you can take how you respond to things and extrapolate them to your audience until you start understanding your audience a little bit better. And then you can make those minor adjustments. Okay, so what's branding? So if you think about the term, originally a brand, the way we know it today, was something that came from the ranching period. But there's always been coats of arms, there's always been flags, there's always been symbols to represent tribes, kingdoms, companies. And for cattle, there's a branding iron that lets everybody know that's my livestock. So if you take it, you're in big trouble, right? Okay, so that's like a brand. So from that, we've kind of decided that a brand is a logo. But the logo only represents the organization, just like a flag represents a country and a coat of arms represents a family. It doesn't it's not in and of itself a brand, okay? So what I like to talk about the most is behavior, online behavior. Human behavior has not changed since the beginning of time, regardless of when you think that time began or how it began. Human behavior is something that we can constantly rely on. Lust, anger, jealousy, envy, benevolence, surviving, chivalry, heroism. That's all the human race. We are all of those things all of the time, none of those things some of the time. And and when we represent a company, we represent a brand. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. I want to talk about voice and I want to talk about human behavior. But I will say that there are graphic artists out there and brand consultants who will do a very good job counseling you and training you and getting you to pick the colors that make the most sense um, for your brand. And you wouldn't want your logo or the name of your product to go against your brand. One of the more famous examples is a Chevy Nova. So Nova, we think of a Nova and we think of a star that died. But in Spanish, Nova means Nova, which means it doesn't go. So having a car in Mexico called Nova is is no bueno. So you have to think about if your product is just or your brand is going to be international, what are those ramifications, right? If you're talking about being profitable, you don't want to use red. Red means debt. Black means profit. Green means go. You know, red is also agitating, but it's also exciting. So look up some articles about the psychology of color, talk to your brand specialist, make those color palettes, choose your fonts. Let those people decide that. But I want to talk about branding when it comes to your online behavior and social media, of course. Back in the day, before the internet made everybody a media publishing company, it was easy to contain information. There's always been gossip channels and side venues that people would use, leaking news on Fridays, um, wag the dog kind of situations in politics and conspiracies and what have you in history. But the way the information was transferred has been evolving. So it was mouth to mouth. It was person to person. I mean, it was maybe written on a tablet taken by a courier in the Roman times, Pony Express thus. Um, you would have a real trusted person who would be your messenger. The messenger was the person who had to be discreet, and they had to have a lot of wisdom. They had to be maybe sneaky. They could get themselves in a lot of trouble if they were too conspicuous. Um, so think about that person that's your ambassador. That ambassador that you're sending with your message is somebody who is a steward of your brand. And so that person really matters a lot. And when you choose that person, it matters. So when you hire a PR firm, before the internet made us all publishers, a PR firm would decide who and when and how to tell an audience your information, your announcement, your new CEO that got hired or whatever. Now things just happen all the time. Presidents tweet, um, interns tweet, people in the mailroom tweets. If you have a collar on your dog could tweet. If you have a device on your plant tweets that it needs water. You know what I'm saying? So there's the ability, the democratization of publishing as far as Twitter and social media goes has opened it up to a lot of things we like, a lot of things we don't like. And so when you are representing yourself as a brand, your company as a brand, or your organization as a brand, you really want to develop voice. Voice is the most important. There is a documentary about the improv that I think is very interesting and fascinating. You might want to read or watch about how the comedians came up with their shtick that worked, their jokes that worked, their act that worked. What they would do is they would go to the improv, they would try these things out. And it's been said that if you could do 4 years at the improv, you found your voice. That was the equivalent of a college degree. Because it does take a while to figure out who you really are. What is it that your message is, and what do you want to say? And also, who is your audience and what resonates with them? Because even Jerry Seinfeld said on his most recent documentary on Netflix that you never know what an audience is going to respond to. And it's really one of the only jobs where you're playing off the audience. Now, he wasn't thinking about social media, but social media is definitely very similar to comedy in that vein. So you want to understand who your voice is. And so when people ask me, how should I start tweeting for this company? I say, read their website. Their website has their voice. That's published. Now, if you don't like the way your website is written, it's time to do an audit with a copywriter, not a web developer, a copywriter, or a web development firm that has a copywriter. Because again, that person is going to be your consultant to make sure that you sound the way you want to sound. That voice is going to resonate with a certain demographic, and we want that demographic to be your audience. So it's voice and it's also behavior. So when you think about behavior, most of the time people think of in-person behavior. And there is a danger that if your online behavior and your in-person behavior are not the same, you develop what psychologists call a cognitive dissonance. Basically, people think you're full of it, okay? Because you don't act the way you act online in person or vice versa. So maybe in person, you're a really nice person, but online, you're a jerk. So you could work on your tonality. You could work on your friendliness. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe online, you're really awesome, but in person, not that friendly. You don't wave to people. Um, you really want to sync up that behavior. A lot of people will say, oh, you should just be authentic. So authenticity is often an excuse to just be a jerk. And we really don't want that, because you're supposed to be on your best behavior. You're putting your best foot forward. Putting your best foot forward is being on your best behavior. Minding your manners, please and thank you. All of the things that your parents told you when you were in a restaurant, all the things they said when you went to visit your grandma. Now, don't touch anything, and be sure to say please and thank you. That's how you treat your customers online and off. Excuse me. So your behavior matters. So when somebody writes you and says, hey, I really like your product, what do you do? Excuse me. That's the question. What do you do? I really like this product. What do you do? Well, if they had come up to you at a cocktail party and said, I really like your product, what would you say? Say that. I would hope that you wouldn't ignore them or repeat what they said to you. So my suggestion would be to reply to their tweet and say, thank you. I think they're the two most underutilized words in the English language on social media. Oh, sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. So you would say thank you. Also, you might want to say, you might want to ask them a question, a follow-up question. If they say, I really like this, let me think. I really like your coat. They could say, what do you like about it? You know? Sorry about that. You could, if they say, I really like your software, you could ask them, oh, thank you so much. How long have you been using it? And they could tell you, or how did you find it? You can ask people questions. You can ask why they like it. Hi, Jamal. Jamal in the chat is saying, ask why they like it. That's good. That's a good thing to say. Do you like my chairs? Oh, why do you like them? You know, that's a pretty standard thing. You would say in person, do that online. Ugh, I'm using this cough button today. So your behavior with your words. And then also, do you spend time commenting? Are you a generous person, or do you only talk about yourself? Just a second. Gotta love these live events and sinuses. So if you have a business and you're responding to comments, that's great. I'm so proud of you, because just a lot of people don't do that. Facebook especially, they do not spend time responding to tweets, Facebook posts, Instagram comments. Do that. That's awesome. But if you want to level it up, be even more generous. Now, my friend Robert Nissenbaum from Tactical Social Media does a great job of this. In fact, he spends more time commenting on other people's posts than he does posting. And there's a kind of innate generosity that people really appreciate, and they reciprocate that because of human behavior. It's really important to not take your audience for granted. People do not like to be taken for granted in any kind of relationship, whether it's customers or dating or family or just friends. Nobody likes to be taken for granted. So if you're a huge brand and you get hundreds of messages, good question, Jamal. Jamal says, what if you get hundreds of messages? I'm going to say you don't. But if you do, then maybe you have an intern. At the very least, you can like their comment. I see a lot of brands not even doing that. But you can also just say thank you. And you can say thank you a lot of different ways. Now, I've done this. I did this when I was representing Give WP, the most robust online donation plugin for WordPress. You can find out more at givewp.com. I'm no longer handling that account. I'm a freelance marketer. But I'm very proud of how I did that work. And sometimes you say Dankeschön, sometimes you say gracias, sometimes you say mucho arigato. I mean, you could be ridiculous. It depends on the brand voice, right? But saying thank you and expressing gratitude is so important, because if you don't express your gratitude, you will take your customers for advantage. You will take them for granted. Sorry, not advantage. You'll take them for granted. And people feel that. They feel it online and they feel it offline. People, they, you know, it's important. So you're you the other thing I want to talk about with behavior is something that's the result. The result of a good online voice and good online behavior is affinity. Now, we rarely have more first click leads on social media. We just had that done for a client. I'm very proud of that, but it's pretty rare. Usually, especially on Twitter, people use it for research and studying, and then they go back to the website and purchase. Especially business to business. It's not a Snickers, on the way out of a grocery store. It's not an impulse buy, right? So you're building relationships with people. This is what you're doing. This is why an online ambassador is so important. Somebody that understands your voice, somebody that you trust with your message. And so with the behavior, what you want to do is you want to um, be somebody that represents your brand, right? I know this sounds so simple, but it's often not thought of this way. And people leave salesmen. Think about salesmen. Salesmen build relationships on behalf of a company for their clients, and companies follow salesmen all over to their new jobs because they have a relationship with the salesperson. So the salesperson is very good at building affinity. And affinity is that emotional feeling you see or you have or experience when you see a brand. Now, it could be bad and it could be good. There was a local chain that I went to, I don't know, a long time ago, 20 years or something. Cockroaches. It ruined it for the whole brand for me. I'll never eat there. It's disgusting. I can't even overcome that in my brain. And they say it takes 7 to 10 more touches to regain a lost person. So it's better to just really think about that ahead of time. How are you treating people? Are you caring about them as a person? Do you greet them? And that can be done online as well. If somebody comes to your online store, maybe you have a pop-up box that says, "Hey, how can I help you?" Um, you could do stuff like that, like Caller WP has one that they just came out with. Or it could just be the way your copy is worded. You wouldn't have somebody come into your brick and mortar and then ignore them, because those people are going to leave, right? So a good question is from Jamal again is, what do you do if your voice leaves the company? Well, I would say it's better to make sure that person doesn't leave. I would treat them well. I would pay them well because they're representing you. But the truth is that people average 2 years on a job, and that is something that Harvard Business School and Stanford Business School and Wharton Business School studies. They don't understand it. People leave companies because of pay, because of managers, because of respect. I would say that if the voice leaves the company, there was something broken in the company, that there was a cognitive dissonance. And when you have a new voice, you need to have those brand standards that you worked with, but the guideline you need to have not just the hexadecimal codes for your color palette or your font choices 1, 2, and 4. You need to say, we're a friendly brand. We talk about this. We don't use humor. We don't use memes, or we do use memes, and we post this way on this channel, this way on this channel, or whatever. They should read read what you've already done. That's how to get in that voice. So for me, when I explain to people about how I personally handle social media, I handle it like method acting. I don't have drama training, but I get in there and I try to be that person. As a secretary, because I spent the first 30 years of my career basically in an office. As a secretary, you are on the phone representing that brand, and your whole job is to have that voice to speak for the boss. "Oh, I'm sorry, he's not available right now. Would you like to leave a message?" "Oh, he'll get right back to you. Thank you so much, sir, for calling." Right? So you try to behave as if you were that person. What would this person do? What would this person say? How would they feel? Do that. And if you're not sure, spend time with them. Spend time reading their emails. Spend time reading support tickets, customer emails, anything. Because if you read how people email and then read how the boss emails you back or emails them back, then you're gonna hear that voice. You'll be able to. So for me, when I start doing social media for a company, I always put the owners on their own special list, and I read how they tweet, and then I get their voice, I get their culture. It's there's a lot of psychology in social media. There's a lot of kind of anthropology that you're in there as a sociologist. I was chatting with a friend last week, and they said, "Oh, so you're like the Jane Goodall of Twitter." Yeah, I am. Um, excuse. So you wanna study your audience, and you wanna study your company culture so that those 2 can be bridged, and then as an online ambassador, you're making those connections, right? Just like a salesperson out in the field. Anyb Anybody who's doing anything that interacts with customers, in support, in, um, business development, project management, anybody who talks to your customers or potential customers is involved in the voice and branding and, um, of your company and your business, and it really matters how they treat, and that's why you don't want somebody who charges $15 an hour. Um, you you want to definitely hire somebody that has discretion. So I usually recommend against a high school person because, like I've said, from psychophysiology, your brain is not finished developing until you're 25. That's why you get a discount from your auto insurance. Um, so you really do want to have that wisdom and discretion. Um, your brand is how people feel about you when they see you. Your brand is how people feel about you when they see your product. Your brand is how people feel about you when they see your logo. Your brand is something you can't control. You can control your behavior, you can control your voice, but you cannot control what people say about you. You just have to realize that how you act affects other people, and we're in an age where everybody is a publisher. Um, so that is a definite, um, sort of nerdy version of branding, more anthropological, more like psychology based, in my opinion. That's how I do it. That's how I've been doing it for the last 10 years. We have a question from the audience again. Do you think they hire you for your personality and may want you to change the company's approach? So that can happen. You can hire somebody for their personality, but my personality, for example, should never be the brand's personality. My personality should be my brand. I should adopt the personality of the brand. And maybe they do want you to change the company's approach, just like a copywriter can edit the copy on your website, or a graphic designer can do a rebranding, which is a logo change, right? But what I'm trying to get across is this: branding is so much more than your logo. Branding is your behavior. Branding is how people perceive your behavior. And branding is what people think about you when they see you. You, your persons, your employees, your work, your product, anything on the internet. Um, what you can't control is how you treat people. What you can control is how you treat yourself. And what you can control is the quality of your products and how you respond to people. What you can't control is people saying things about you. That's over. People are going to talk. They've always been able to talk, but now they're able to publish at much larger scale. So what is branding? Branding is the perception your customer or potential customer base has of you, your product, or your services based upon their experiences with you. And the logo is what triggers those feelings. The logo is not the brand. Thanks for watching. I plan to do more live videos to help. I am available for consultation or freelance social media work, and you can find out more at bridgetwillard.com/hire-Bridget. I have my rates there. I can also create a custom quote if you'd like. And if you have questions, I will definitely respond. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great afternoon or morning or evening whenever you're watching this, because that's the beauty of YouTube. You can find me at bridgetwillard.com, and thank you very much.